Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to take a really close look at modern celebrity identity, really the nuts and bolts of global stardom. We're diving into what we're calling the architecture of modern fame.
Yeah, and we've been digging into a pretty unique set of sources here. It's a mix of, real strategic thinking, but also some raw vulnerability. Our main source gives us unfiltered thoughts from Taylor Swift herself.
Right.
But we're also bringing in perspectives from people like Travis Kelce, Seth Nore, the comedian, writer, and rap legend Nore.
Okay.
And our mission really is to get behind the curtain, look at the big show and see the blueprint, the strategy that keeps a brand this massive actually running.
And the thing that sort of unlocked this for us wasn't some big magazine piece or a planned interview.
Yeah.
It was this kind of raw, late-night conversation. We're talking Taylor Swift chatting with Seth Nore at like 2:37 in the morning on a rainy Tuesday. Seriously. And that one unguarded moment, well, it told us more about the real cost, the reality of that career, than maybe 10 years of carefully managed public appearances put together.
It really felt like the moment the public persona just stepped aside for a second and the strategic CEO stepped up.
Exactly.
It just confirmed that this level of fame, it's not some happy accident or, pure genius lighting strike. It's built. It comes from really meticulous planning.
Okay, let's unpack that meticulous system then, starting with this phrase she used, which I found fascinating. A showgirl with spreadsheets. That framing, it just instantly changes how you think about the whole thing, doesn't it? It's like performance is maybe secondary to the actual construction of the business.
Absolutely. It kills that whole idea of the spontaneous artist just creating on vibes alone. For her, fame isn't just about the performance itself.
Right.
It's a constantly tweaked, calculated business strategy. She has this surgical level of control over every single part of her brand.
Which feels different from older Hollywood models, maybe.
Totally different. This isn't just singing songs. It's like she's architecting an entire universe around the brand. And the audience gets to live inside it. They're buying the whole experience.
And the data she uses to back this up, that seems to be a key differentiator too. We're not just talking artistry here. This is like rigorous management.
Oh, yeah.
She apparently tracks a frankly startling number of variables every day just to keep the machine oiled.
We are talking about 27 variables every single day.
27.
Just think about the sheer discipline that takes. And these aren't vague concepts. We're talking super specific personal stuff, hydration levels, sleep quality, physical strain.
Okay, wait. Hydration.
Yeah, right alongside things like audience mood during a show, or even how much strain a particular piece of choreography puts on her body during rehearsals.
Hold on. Audience mood as a trackable variable. How does that even work? Is she literally plugging numbers into a spreadsheet, or is that more of a metaphor for just constantly analyzing?
It seems like it's both, actually. The sources suggest there's personal data input, yes, but also tons of detailed feedback loops from her team.
Oh, okay.
About fan reactions, social media buzz, the energy in the room during a show. The implication is kind of huge.
Yeah.
She's constantly A/B testing her own existence, treating her career like a product that needs nonstop updates based on real-time performance data. It just completely blows up that myth of effortless stardom. It shows it for what it is, this high-wire, incredibly demanding operation.
Right. So it makes perfect sense then, hearing that, why she apparently feels uncomfortable with being called a genius.
Yeah.
Because genius sounds like this sudden perfect thing you achieve once.
Exactly. She pushes back on genius because, as she sees it, it's like this crown that just tracks you, sets an impossible bar you can never hit again.
So instead she talks about
persistence. She leans into persistence. And it sounds subtle, but it's actually a really critical strategic choice. Persistence means continuous effort. It means growth. It means seeing your career as this long marathon where you're expected to evolve.
Okay, but I have to push back a little. Isn't rejecting the genius label, especially when you explain it so strategically and articulately, isn't that itself kind of a genius PR move?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Is it genuine humility or just another calculated way to manage expectations?
And honestly, it's probably a bit of both. It feels authentic because, clearly the woman works unbelievably hard.
Right.
But it's also strategic because championing persistence gives her breathing room. If an album's just, good instead of world-changing, persistence allows for that. Genius doesn't. She's building in room to sample, which is smart for the long game.
And that strategic persistence, that's what lets her build these huge, immersive things she calls eras.
Precisely. Each era isn't just like a new album. It's a whole product line. It's got its own narrative, its own look, its own specific themes, all packaged into this complete lifestyle thing.
So like Red was the messy heartbreak era.
Yep. And Reputation was that sort of calculated, controlled vengeance vibe. Midnights is all about introspection, looking inward. Fans don't just stream the songs, they dive into the whole story.
I live it.
They live it. It's where art, business, and even memory all just kind of melt together into one giant product.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit from the spreadsheets and the strategy to the emotional side of the ledger. Because that 2.37 a.m. chat, it really laid bare the human cost. She talked really openly about the performance of femininity and just the sheer emotional labor needed to keep that brand going.
Yeah, the sources described this really raw, almost painful admission where she said sometimes she just has to fake being thrilled. And just to keep the whole machine moving forward, you see this stark gap between the glossy surface and the deep exhaustion underneath it all. She calls it fame fatigue.
Right, this constant grind of appearances, photo ops, always having to be on.
Exactly. It's a relentless cycle, and it clearly drains emotional reserves like crazy.
And that exhaustion, it led to what might be the most telling quote in all material we looked at, that incredibly rare, unguarded moment where she just said, "I wish I could be boring for 1 year."
Yeah, that phrase. And apparently, Seth Meyers just let it hang there. He didn't jump in. He let that silence sit for a beat.
Which says so much.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's like a crack in the facade, a tiny glimpse of someone who maybe just longs for, for a life without that constant draining spotlight.
And interestingly, that moment of vulnerability immediately flowed into this really sharp critique of the gender dynamics in the industry. Myers pointed out this obvious double standard.
Right. He noted how when male stars get moody or difficult, it's often framed as like, oh, he's an artist.
Artistic temperament, yeah. Adds to the mystique almost.
Exactly. But if a woman expresses the same kind of frustration or exhaustion, the label comes fast. Diva. Difficult.
Instantly.
So Taylor pointed out that smiling, always being pleasant, always seeming grateful, it basically becomes a survival tactic. It's this active effort you have to make just to keep things running smoothly without sparking negative press.
And to try and explain this really complex relationship between the star and the audience, she used another great metaphor. She compared herself to a disco ball, not a mirror.
Yeah, and the key to that metaphor is how it interacts with light, right? A mirror just bounces back whatever's right there in front of it. Simple reflection.
Okay.
But a disco ball, it catches the light and fractures it, sending it out in thousands of directions. It creates this dazzling spectacle. But, and this is crucial, it only works, it's only visible, when an external light source is actively shining on it.
So the celebrity's image isn't really defined by who they are intrinsically, but by the audience's attention and energy being projected onto them.
Precisely. It really captures that symbiotic, but also kind of parasitic, maybe, nature of fame. The image relies entirely on outside focus. The spotlight makes the star shine, but it also kind of obscures the actual person underneath, reflecting back the audience's own desires and expectations more than anything else.
So if the disco ball needs that external light, we should probably look at the people standing closest to it, right? Those in her immediate orbit. How does this whole complex, demanding architecture affect them? Let's talk about Travis Kelce.
Right.
Since their relationship started, you can definitely see a pretty significant and probably necessary shift in his public persona.
Oh, absolutely. He's gone from being, primarily an NFL guy, maybe a bit of a lovable jock, to this much more multifaceted public figure. He's got the podcast, brand deals, and importantly, he's seen as this supportive partner. The sources definitely point to an evolution post-Swift. Well, there seems to be a more measured emotional awareness, maybe trading some of that earlier kind of reckless bravado for a bit more maturity. And look, maybe that was happening anyway, but it feels accelerated, almost required to fit into this particular celebrity world.
And Taylor herself actually praised that. She highlighted his willingness to, quote, not be center stage. She called that incredibly rare for these high-profile couples where, let's be honest, egos often clash, right?
Yeah, they're often competing, even subtly, for the spotlight.
Right.
So that lack of competition, that seems to be part of the strategy for them. Kelce himself used a really interesting analogy. He described navigating the nonstop public attention as like playing on a chessboard.
A chessboard?
Where every single move, even something personal like where they go on vacation or grab dinner, it's instantly analyzed, predicted. It all requires strategy. Privacy isn't just gone. It's something they have to actively, meticulously manage.
That constant pressure, that need for strategy, it leads us perfectly into a totally different viewpoint, a much more blunt take on modern fame from rap legend Nore.
Yeah, Nore's perspective is, well, it's pretty brutal. He cuts right through the illusion.
How does he see it?
He basically argues that modern celebrities aren't just performers anymore. They're more like reflections. They reflect these perfected, edited versions of life that fans are, like, desperate to believe in. So fame, in his view, isn't really about expressing who you truly are. It's much more about mirroring whatever fantasy the public wants projected back at them. You're selling an ideal, not yourself.
So his warning, especially to younger fans, is basically, don't mistake the highlight reel for reality.
Exactly. Don't let these perfectly edited little clips you see on social media become your compass for what's real. Those viral moments are just tiny curated slices designed purely for engagement, not for truth.
And he points out a danger for the artist in all this too, right?
A huge danger.
Yeah.
Nore's sharpest point is that artists can get trapped performing this idealized version of themselves. Performing for crowds who maybe wouldn't even show up if the filters came off and they saw the real messy person.
Wow.
You end up sacrificing your actual authentic self for that quick hit of validation online. And the danger is starting to confuse that performance with your actual self-worth.
It sounds like a constant pressure cooker. I mean, even someone like Seth Meyers, who's usually so cool and collected.
Right, a total pro.
Even he admitted feeling envious of Taylor's ability to navigate it all by, as he put it, owning her chaos. He recognized that relentless performance that's demanded from basically every entertainer at that level.
So when you put all these pieces together, the spreadsheets, the emotional toll, Kelce's chessboard, Nore's harsh critique, what you see is that the thing that looks so effortless from the outside, the giant tours, the relationship, the whole billion-dollar empire, it's actually this incredibly fragile, intensely managed balancing act.
Built on data.
Built on data, yeah, but also profound emotional labor and just relentless narrative control. Honestly, it's an extraordinary feat of agency just to keep a brand that huge afloat and on message.
And understanding this whole architecture is really valuable for us, for you listening, because it helps us look more critically at all the public personas we see, whether it's a global megastar managing a world tour or, frankly, just our own carefully curated social media feeds. The basic strategy is kind of the same, isn't it?
It really is, that constant, meticulous management of perception. Real power in today's world seems to lie not just in talent, but in controlling your own story.
Because once you lose control of that architecture,
the whole thing starts to wobble. It can crumble pretty fast.
So to leave you with a final thought to chew on, let's go back to Taylor reflecting on the future. She apparently mused that one day she might just disappear from the spotlight entirely, and she suggested that that absence might be her ultimate masterpiece. So think about that. In a world completely obsessed with visibility, where you have to be constantly present just to stay relevant, could choosing when and how you leave the stage, choosing that deliberate exit, could that actually be the final, most powerful act of control? Something to think about until our next deep dive.